So I want to talk a little bit about the languages and the high-tech pieces of this class, what it is and what it's not. Um, it is a web design class, so it's not really going to be focused a lot on web development, although it's focused on some aspects of web development. So I want to talk to you about this concept of web development. I'd also like to clarify where web design fits into this. At least this is my understanding of it. Actual practicing web developers and a million people out in the world might define this a little bit differently. This understanding is my own, and it's also informed by, I have a friend who actually does web development for a living, and so she helped me kind of clarify my thinking on this. You may find it depicted in a different way, but this is probably roughly a decent understanding of web development. It's definitely my understanding of it, and it'll help you understand what you're doing in this class, and how in-depth we're going and how in-depth we're not going. We're really not going to touch on a lot of technological stuff. Although for some of you, what we do touch on technologically is going to blow your mind. For others, you've already done a lot of it before, and maybe some of it's review for you. Okay, so I've drawn out some concepts that I'm going to try to explain to you pretty quickly here. So we're going to talk about web development. Web development includes front-end development and back-end development. So let's talk first about front-end. I would say that within front-end development, you can include that concept of web design. And you might even have people, like on a team that's making a website, you might have people in front-end development that don't even do any coding necessarily. There's a whole other piece of web design or design that we're not even including here. Things like creating graphics. Somebody on a team needs to do that kind of thing, and they may not actually ever do HTML or CSS or JavaScript, but that's an aspect of web design that is not even depicted here. So we're talking about the sort of languagey kind of aspects of web development. Okay, so we've got three languages that are usually considered to be front-end languages. HTML is a core language. It's a markup language, and it's used for marking up or defining the structure of your page, so the structure of the content on your page. The words, like what are paragraphs on this page? What are headings on this page? CSS is another key language. It's a style sheet language, and it can actually impact the HTML, but what it does is it says, here's how this page is going to look. Here's what the fonts are going to look like. Here's what the colors are going to look like. Here's how we're going to use space on this page. So if HTML is like if HTML is like a building, the structure of a building, the frame, the holes for the doors, CSS is the paint color, it's the skin, it's the texture, it's the type of brick, that kind of thing. So again, HTML is structure, CSS is look, feel, and some design. And then we've got JavaScript. This is a scripting language, and it's considered object-oriented. We're not going to go into what that means, but it is an object-oriented scripting language, and it governs browser behavior and how the user interacts with the browser. All right, so we are going to be dealing very lightly with HTML and CSS. The textbook that we're using in this class is about HTML and CSS. We're not going to be dealing with JavaScript, but part of the reason I'm telling you about the technologies we're using, the sort of language technologies, is because if you are advanced and if you already know how to do this, like you're very proficient in HTML and CSS, then I want you to tell, and you don't want to do it again, and you want to kind of do something else, you want to maybe push yourself into JavaScript, or maybe you even want to go into the back end. The whole reason for me kind of explaining this, one of the reasons, is so that you can tell me you don't want to do this again, and I'll let you do something else, okay? You can define something else deeper. If it's been 10 years since you've done this HTML and CSS stuff, then maybe that's what you want to do again. You want to review it, make sure you're comfortable, and just stick with that. Okay, so we are not going to do anything with JavaScript in this class. So let's talk about the back end very quickly. There are two main aspects to back-end programming. This is really where you're getting into the domain of computer science, which this program that you're in, this EDS program in media, we're not teaching you computer science concepts. However, again, if you already know these two things, HTML and CSS, and maybe you already know some JavaScript and you want to go deeper, that's totally fine. But I'm not qualified to teach you or guide you back here. But the back end includes server-side languages. These are just some examples. You can get deeper with the JavaScript with for example, Node.js is an example. Another server-side language. Other server-side languages include Python, Java, C#, and PHP. We've got further examples of the way these things can be expressed. So we've got server-side languages. We also have database languages for storing content. Again, we don't deal with this stuff, although websites can contain this kind of functionality. Okay, the functionality of your websites will at a minimum include HTML. At first, you're going to make some HTML web pages, and then you're going to do a couple of assignments with CSS. And then for the final project of the semester, you're going to be creating a web page of several pages. I don't have the assignment in front of me, so I don't remember, but it's something like 3 pages. And at a minimum, it will include these 2 languages. You can do it using a CMS, a content management system like WordPress. You could do it using I'm trying to think, what do we call it? A tool like Weebly. What do we call that? It has a name. Oh, a site builder. Okay, because it's not. I don't think it's so much a content management system. Weebly. It's called a site builder. So Weebly and Wix, those are site builders, kind of drag and drop kind of stuff. You can do it using that kind of thing. So it's very helpful when you use content management systems and when you use site builders to have a working knowledge of HTML and CSS. A touch of proficiency in this area. That's what we aim for in this class.